Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people. And Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
All of it. I mean, he's amazing. And again, starstruck. I love all his work, especially Ferris Bueller. So to get to meet him was amazing, and he just did a great job. And the thing about working with all of these actors, especially the ones that were on that were reprising their role from Lion King, they all know the character better than I do. So when they come in, they already know how the character talks. They know everything about the character. So it's not like when you're starting a new movie and you're kind of trying to find a new character, and you have to figure out things, try it a little bit. No, maybe try it this way, But with this movie, they know their characters. They're already iconic characters before this movie started. Before we started this, so it was just great to see them work. And all you're doing is talking about what the scene is in this movie, but as far as their voice and how they play the character, there's nothing that you need to do. They already have it down. But as far as Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane, what was really cool about that was they were actually rehearsing the trying to think of the name now. The name is The Producers. The play The Producers. Remember that play on Broadway, which is based on Mel Brooks' movie. They were actually rehearsing the Producers. They didn't even start doing the play yet. They were just rehearsing it, and they had a lot of rehearsal to do. And the play, as we know, was a huge success. But this was before anybody knew about it, so we had to make sure that we recorded everything that they were going to have in the movie that we needed in the movie before a certain date. Because once those rehearsals started, they're not going to have time to stop and do a lot of recordings. They wanted to keep their voices good for the play. So that was one interesting dynamic. We wanted to get everything done and written and ready for them before they started their rehearsals, especially before they started the play. But so that was kind of cool. It was kind of getting the inside scoop on something that everybody was going to know about, but we knew about it before it was announced.
Yeah. As a director, did you have some tense moments where people were calling you or asking you questions at the same time to the point where you couldn't process anything and you had to take like a break or something?
No, it's not. Even though it's a little bit of a shorter schedule than normal, being that it's a direct-to-video, we had a pretty long schedule for a traditional direct-to-video. So there was time to process things, and again, we had a great team. It wasn't all on my shoulders. I had a great team of artists and talent all the way across the board. So I never felt like it was. I never felt overwhelmed. I always knew I had people who did things a lot better than I did, so I let them do their jobs and just kind of guided them.
I asked that mainly because the other day, you probably saw on my channel, but aside from being a movie buff and knowledgeable about it, I'm also a motorsports fanatic.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, the other day I actually went with a group of like seven of my friends to a local racing museum here in Phoenix that's operated by the Penske organization, where they have all the race cars that have been driven by Indianapolis 500 winners that drove for Penske.
Amazing.
It is, and it backfired on me to an extent, however, because I know far more about motorsports than they did. And so when we were walking through the museum, I was getting several people coming up to me asking me questions about certain cars and drivers to the point where I would try to answer a question and then I would hear someone ask, "Who's Al Unser?" And then I would be like, "Just a sec, I need to," and then another person would be like, "Who's Danny Sullivan?" And then I would say, "Just a minute, guys, I'm trying to answer a question." And then I would continue, and then someone would come up saying, "What's that trophy about?" Or "Who's Roger Penske?" Or "What was Spin and Win about?" Meaning Danny Sullivan's Indy win. And it just got to the point where I just had to say, guys, calm down. I need to take a break. I'll answer your questions separately if you'd like. You know,
Wow, that's pretty cool. That's an honor. They
it
saw what
is.
you're talking about.
Yeah, it's an honor to get questions, but being that I'm on the spectrum, sometimes it can be overwhelming, especially when you get interrupted over and over and over again to the point where you can't even get a word in
Yeah, you
edgewise.
can't
You know what I
answer
mean?
one question at a time. Exactly. It's like, how are you going to ask? You can't, it's impossible.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty interesting to hear that it was a long process. How long did it take to make the movie from start to end?
3.5 years.
So this was like soon after The Lion King 2, like a couple years, right?
Mhm. I can't remember exactly when, but it came. I think this came out around 2004.
It was 2004. Yeah. Yeah. 20th
What am
anniversary,
I
you know?
saying? 20th anniversary. Of course it was. Yeah. So that was it was. So we started to develop it from scratch. Just coming up with what is the story going to be? How are we going to tell the first Lion King from Timon and Pumbaa's point of view, and still have it be a compelling story, still have it be emotional, so that people are rooting for it. Because once the gimmick of seeing the movie retold, it's going to get old if there's nothing compelling about it. So that was really the struggle, just at the beginning, just coming up with what's the best way to do it. And that was it was a fun process, but it was just coming up with it, presenting it to the team, presenting it to the executives, and then going back and adjusting things as we needed to, was a little bit of a process. Plus, getting the studio all set up, the studio in Australia, making sure we fit the window when they would all be available to devote their time to animate it. So all these things were kind of, we needed to schedule it out that way.
Yeah. At least it's pretty easy compared to a feature film, you know?
Well, it's there's nothing. No, the process is the same. The process is
Oh,
still exactly the same. And really, the only difference is the obviously the marketing, and how they market it, and how they
oh.
put it. Whether it's going to be a direct to video, or if it's or direct to DVD, as it was at that time, or a theatrical release. It's really about marketing.
Yeah, it looked like Disney's decision to begin with Return to Jafar and create all those sequels impacted like other studios that released direct to video as well, like the DreamWorks movie about Joseph that followed Prince of Egypt, or didn't technically follow chronologically, but followed as a movie, you know, and then there was Scooby Doo and all their direct to video movies, although in their case it was about real monsters rather than people in costumes, you know.
That's right. Yep. It was definitely once Return of Jafar, that was a big success. That's when they realized they had a market, and that's when they really, devoted a lot of energy to the direct to video department.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. it was definitely a big time. I remember getting all those direct to videos and seeing my cousins have them, like a whole collection of the videos. And then that was during the time that Lyric Studios, released movies like that as well, with Barney and the Wiggles. And yeah, direct to video was pretty big when I was growing up. And I'm going to be able to say, like 60, 50 years from now, as an old man, I remember when VHS was around.
I know. I mean, that is whoever, the technology changes so fast. It's surprising just to know, that what's going to be next. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know what they can get beyond, screening, because that's really all it is now. It went from VHS to DVD to streaming and screening and all that. The only thing I can think of that could follow is maybe a virtual version of the movie where you feel like you're in the world, but
Wow,
it's the same story.
that would be amazing. That would be,
Yeah.
maybe you should invent that. That would.
Even if someone else does invent it, if this gets posted, which it will, I'll be able to say I came up with that,
Yep, right. It's the proof. Yep.
Yeah. So, what were your thoughts when Disney started doing the live action movies? Because the live action movies, in my opinion, have been pretty good, although some people have certain opinions on the remakes.
Oh, I thought it was cool. It was really cool, and they bring in pretty big directors to do those live action movies, and it's amazing. It's always fun to see what they come up with.
Yeah, and they brought in new actors that weren't pretty known at the time, like Luke Evans as Gaston, and although he was known in England, but not really in the States. And then they had some British actors for the Lion King live action that you would not have heard of until that movie. That was
Right.
good.
Absolutely.
And then they brought back James Earl Jones in his 90s to voice Mufasa again. He's still kicking it.
Amazing. What a voice. He is so amazing. I unfortunately didn't get to work with him because there wasn't really a reason to put Mufasa in the movie to have new lines, because we wanted to keep it that this amazing, epic story was going on kind of far in the distance. It wasn't that they literally caused the certain things that happen within the specifics of like Mufasa and Scar and everything. So we kept everybody away. So we didn't work with Jeremy Irons or James Earl Jones because there really wasn't any lines, but there weren't any lines for them. And I was always disappointed about that. Would have been great.
Yeah. You know what I like about the live action Disney movies? I like that they answer questions that were never directly explained in the original movies, the original animated ones. For example, with The Little Mermaid, the reason why Ursula wanted Ariel wasn't for slavery. It was to get back at King Triton and put him in a position of, if you don't give me your kingdom, your daughter's mine forever. Ransom kind of.
Interesting.
However, it was never explained where their conflict began in the first place, and it was revealed in the live action Little Mermaid that they were siblings and that Ursula was possibly responsible for leading Triton's wife to death, and that led to a falling out.
Yeah. It's interesting, to get different filmmakers' points of view and writers' points of view of what they would do differently, or what they, questions that they may have, that this can make the story deeper if we did that or whatever. It's always cool to see what they come up with.
It is as well. And you know what else? And the same with, The Lion King. It was never directly explained why Scar and Mufasa had conflict, despite that they would have been close, but it was implied that it was because of a love triangle with Sarabi. Not just the kingdom, and whoever was heir, but a love triangle with Sarabi.
Yeah. They always like, there's just never know what they can come up with, come up with a new, because I wasn't a part of those projects, so I don't know exactly where that came from and why they felt they needed to do that. But it's always nice when you can deepen the mythology.
Yeah. I also like that they sort of switch the characters around a bit as well and make them act a little bit more realistically in certain aspects. Like in the original Lion King, for example, when Simba finds out the truth that Scar was the murderer of his father, he forces Scar to admit to it by choking him, which is technically, a way to do it. But in the recent movie, the live action, when Simba responds to it, Scar tries to sort of play stupid and say, "Hey everyone, he's trying to kill me next. He killed Mufasa." And then Sarabi goes up to him and is like, "But you told us that you never arrived at the gorge in time, so how could you have seen the look in Mufasa's eyes?" So they had Scar attempt to cover it up. And I think that sounds like more of like what Scar would try to do compared to saying proudly in the first one, that he killed Mufasa. You know what I mean?
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, it's always, like I said, they can always add something or richen the story, when they get to kind of retell that story in a different way. But
Yeah.
they've been all great. And I think I can't remember there's another one coming up that I read an announcement for it. I just can't remember it off the top of my head. But it looks like it'll be really cool. It has a great cast too, but I can't remember it. Sorry, forgot.
Hunchback of Notre Dame, or was it
No, it
Snow
wasn't that.
White?
Oh, Snow White. Yeah, Snow White looks really cool. Like I've heard it. It's going to be really cool. I haven't seen anything on it, but I've heard it. It's going to be pretty cool. So that'll be fun.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith Scott from Sydney, Australia saying so long, and I'm smarter than the average bear. Gee.